Hello dear student, I hope that all of you are safe and fine. With you Mr. Muhammad Khidr in lesson 4 chapter 5 that attended by principles of classification of living organisms. Living organisms need to be classified to be easily studied and to be easily get benefits from them and avoid it harmful from them. Taxonomy or classification, the science which studied arrangement of living organisms according to their similarities and differences, which facilitates their study. Aristo was the first to classify animals to red-blooded and bloodless animals. He classified plants into shrubs, weeds, and trees. So, all living organisms with Aristo are classified to animals and plants. Modern taxonomy depends mainly on definition of species. When members of the same species mating between each other, they produce fertile individuals that can be mating and reproduce a new individuals, and this ensure continuity of the species. When two members from different species mating between each other, infertile or sterile person or member will be produced that can be mating, can't be mating, or reproduce another individuals. Like tigon. Tigon when female of lion and the male tiger cross between each other, they produce the so-called tigons. Tigons are infertile and can't be reproduced. Male, when a male of donkey and a female of horse cross between each other, they produce males. Males are also infertile and can't be reproduced. From the two previous examples, we conclude that neither mule or tigon can be species because they can't be reproduced and give a new fertile individuals. Naming of living organisms discovered by Carl Linnaeus, who created a system of to name living organisms, and this system is called binomial system. This system, written in Latin language by two parts. The first, name of genus, it begins with capital letter. Second name, the name of a species, it begins with a small letter. Binomial names are written in Latin language in italics or underlined to be differentiated. Linus used Latin language because it's an old language, not spoken by people, which protects it from any change or modification. For example, Felis domestica. Felis domesticus is the name of cat in Latin language or its scientific name. Felis with capital letter F means cat in Latin, while domesticus is the name of a species. It means domestic in Latin and begins by small letter. Taxonomic hierarchy. Taxonomic hierarchy begins with the biggest level called kingdom, contains number of phyla. Number two, phyla represents number of classes. Class contains number of orders. Order contains a number of families. Family contains a number of genes. Genus contains a number of species, and the species was the lowest level of taxonomy, which contains individuals capable of producing fertile individuals between each other due to successful mating. Dichotomosky. Dichotomosky is a series of characteristics arranged in pairs, which helps the user determine species of a known organism. For example, when you get a new organism, you should note that is this living organism has fur or no. When it has a fur, it belongs to mammalia, and when it with no fur, it may be with no features or with features. When it contains features, it may be belongs to birds. When fissures, it may be with external fertilization or internal fertilization. Internal fertilization, it must be belongs to reptiles. With external fertilization, it may be belongs to fishes or amphibians. Carl Linnes's traditional classification system of living organisms has only two kingdoms, animal kingdom and plant kingdom. Another one, called Whitaker, gives the modern classification system, and the system classified living organisms into five kingdoms: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. Kingdom Monera have general characteristics like unicellular prokaryotic organisms that may be life alone or life in colonies. Their cell walls are devoid of cellulose or pectin, and they don't have any definite nucleus. Cytoplasm doesn't contain some organelles such as mitochondria, Golgi apparatus, endoplasmic reticulum, or blastids. Kingdom Monera have two phyla. The first one called Archaebacteria. Archaebacteria are bacteria that can be live in extreme environmental conditions like hot springs or less oxygen content or high salinity or other harsh conditions. They are different from eubacteria in structure of cell wall and plasma membrane. So the modifications of plasma membrane and the cell wall give this bacteria ability to live in harsh conditions other than eubacteria. Another phylum, phylum B, is called eubacteria. Eubacteria are more developed than archaebacteria, and they have many species and spread widely in all environments in Earth, like air, water, and ground. There are autotrophic bacteria called cyanobacteria or blue-green bacteria, and another type of bacteria called heterotrophic bacteria, like nostoc. Organisms which produce complex organic compounds from simple one called autotrophs. Autotrophs can use simple substance to produce a complex organic compounds. Another type of bacteria, heterotrophic bacteria, that can use organic carbon or complex substances from around environment and degrade it to simple one. Bacteria reproduce asexually by binary fission, and they have different shapes like rod shape, spiral, and spherical. Kingdom Protista. Protista are eukaryotic organisms. They are different from plants and animals. Some of them have cell walls and blastids. The first phylum from Protista is called Protozoa. Protozoa are unicellular microorganisms live in fresh water or salt water or fertile lands. They live alone or in colonies. Some of them parasite on animals and plants, causing diseases, and they reproduce sexually and asexually. Protozoa are classified according to their movement methods into class Sarcodina, which are moved by temporary projection called pseudopodia, like amoeba. Class 2, Celiophora. Celiophora moved by using cilia, like Paramecium. Class Flagellata move using flagellate, like Trypanosoma, which causes sleeping disease in Africa. Class number 4 is Sporozoa. Sporozoa, they are reproduced by spores, but they immotile, like Plasmodium, which parasites on human causing malaria disease. Euglenophyta phylum is the phylum number 5, or the phylum number 2, I'm sorry. This phylum contains Euglena. Euglena are unicellular organisms, contain green blastids, and can make photosynthesis process, so they are autotrophic organisms. Most of them are unicellular and moved by flagella. Another type is called diatoms. Diatoms are unicellular organisms. Their cell wall composed from silica, especially silicon dioxide SiO2, and they are considered the main source of food for fish. Phylum Pyrophyta. Pyrophyta is called phytoplanktons, live in seas and oceans. They have red color due to extent of red pigment along with chlorophyll. Dinoflagellates is the greatest group of this phyla. Its individuals move by two flagella. Kingdom Fungi. Fungi are eukaryotes. Some of them may be unicellular, like yeast, and another, or most of them are multicellular. They are immobile, and their cell walls contain chitin. They are composed of filaments called hypha. This hypha, when collected together, it will form mycelium. They may be autotrophic, heterotrophic, and saprophytic, but autotrophic ones are very rare. Most of them reproduce sexually, while the rest reproduce asexually by spores formation, and their phylum is named according to the type of spore. Phylum 1, Zygomycota. Zygomycota, their hypha are undivided, and the spores are produced in sporangium called zygospores, like Rhizopus nigricans, which cause the black mold on bread and produces an enzyme used in cheese industry. Phylum number 2 called Ascomycoda. These Ascomycoda like yeast fungus. Some of them are unicellular and the rest of them are multicellular. Hypha are divided by transverse barriers called septa. They produce spores inside sporangia like Penicillium fungus, which produce penicillin antibiotic. Phylum number 3 called Basidiomycota. Its hypha are divided and its spores may be produced in mac-like structure called cap. Some of them are edible, can be eaten by man, and some of them are toxic, like mushroom. Kingdom Plant. Plants are eukaryotic organisms. Their cell walls composed of cellulose, and their cells contain chlorophyll in green plastids, and may be found another plastids like a chloroplast, chromoplast, and leucoplast. Most of them reproduce sexually by gametes. Most scientists of taxonomy see kingdom plant is divided into higher algae like rhodophyta, phyophyta, and chlorophyta. Number B, non-vascular plants. These plants don't contain any vascular tissues like xylem or phloem. Vascular plants like huge and woody trees composed of or contain vascular tissues like xylem and phloem. Higher algae contain three phyla. The first phylum called Rhodophyta or red algae, composed of filaments held together to be gelatinous or jelly-like membrane, and their cells have plastids carried a red pigment like Polystyphonia algae that you can see it in a picture. Phylum number 2, Phyophyta. Phyophyta called brown algae like Fucus algae. It composed from simple and branched filaments, and their cells have plastids carrying a brown pigment. Phylum number 3, Chlorophyta or green algae. Their cells have green plastids. These plastids may be in different shape. Some of them may be unicellular like Chlamydomonas, which has a cup-shaped blastid responsible for photosynthesis process, and the multicellular one like Spirogyra, which unbranched filament and contains spiral-shaped blastids. Non-vascular plants like phylum Bryophyta. Bryophyta contains plants which don't have vascular tissues like xylem and phloem for transporting of water and food in all parts of the plant, so they are called non-vascular plants. Non-vascular plants are terrestrial plants which need high humidity to grow up and reproduce. So they live in damp and shady places like Riccia plant and Elfionaria plant. Vascular plants number C contains phylum Trichophyta or vascular plants which contains xylem tissue for transporting of water and phloem tissue that responsible for transporting of organic substances made or produced from photosynthesis process. And this phylum contains three classes. Class Ferns. Ferns is a simple structured plants. Most of them are herbaceous and the rest are woody like trees, live in damp and shady lands, and exist in abundance of the walls of fields and damp valleys. They are differentiated into stem, roots, and leaves, and have fissure-like leaves, but don't have flowers, so they called non-flower plants. They are produced by spores which exist in special structures in under surface of their leaves, like الفجير. Number 2, gymnosperma or conifers. Conifers or gymnosperma, they are vascular plants which don't form flowers. They are non-flower plants only. They have male and female reproductive organs called cones. So there are male cones and female cones. Their seeds have no testa and naked and in shape they like needle like penis. Angiosperma flowering plants. Angiosperma called covering seed plant that produce seeds inside coat or their seeds are covered. They are terrestrial plants and can be differentiated into leaves, roots, and stem. Angiosperma classified into two classes. This class is called monocotyledons and dicotyledons. Monocotyledons like a corn and a wheat onion, and dicotyledons like a pea, bean, cotton. المونوكوتيليدون, their seed composed from only one piece called one cotyledon, while dicotyledon, their seeds composed of two cotyledons. Monocotyledons have leaf veins are parallel, while other reticulated or branched. Petals in monocotyledon are in multiples of 3 or multiplies, while in dicotyledon they may be 4 or 5 or their multiplies. Vascular tissues in monocotyledon are scattered through the stem, and their roots are fibrous, while dicotyledon contains taproots, and their bundles of vascular tissues are arranged across the stem into ring structure. This is a table for comparison between a monocotyledon and dicotyledon. I hope you can understand this lesson, and any question I will be with you anytime. Thank you.